it always takes, it's going through Facebook again. Let me go to the Dow and see how we show up. When you see me, let me know. I got you up here, organizing my windows. All right. Well, all right. Always takes us a lovely minute.
Oh, here I am.
Or 5 minutes to get organized here. You just never know when you're going to get kicked off. Okay, everybody, welcome back to Everything Horses and More podcast. I'm Caroline Best of the Dow Horsemanship, and y'all know who is to my left. Beautiful Sabrina, my co-host. All right, so the 200 and what was it, 58 downloads, was that from last week's podcast?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I didn't check it yet. I meant to.
Yes.
So that's our biggest one so far.
Oh, I know. Crazy.
Or which one? I mean, maybe it wasn't, because we just uploaded last week's. I know. See, I get so confused and lost in time because the days are blurry and running into the weeks. Always so much, but yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
238 downloads last week.
So that's from the Dow. That's from us streaming live to Facebook. See what a great idea that was. I'm so glad. I'm going to take some credit on that one, guys. I'm so glad I thought of that. Like, how can we get out there and spread the word, the revolution to horse training, and debunk so much of the bullshit and propaganda that is purported by every type of horse trainer, especially the ones that are natural, gentle, holistic, and they're still training in a way that is not where it needs to be for the horse, bottom line. Or the person, if you are seeking out a more natural, holistic, gentle based training methodology, and there's plenty of them out there, including ours, but they're missing the boat. So we're going to, as we have been doing since last week, we started a new structure, and obviously it's working really well. We are going to review last week's podcast topic just a little bit for those of you that weren't able to join us. And of course, you can download the app to podcast, type in the search bar, Everything Horses and More, and find us and subscribe to us. And then you can listen to all of the past podcasts. And we're going to, so topic number one, we're going to review last week's podcast just a little bit. Then we're going to talk about the video, last week's video, and this Friday's new video. And then 4, we're going to get into number 3, our discussion. And this week's discussion, our topic for this week is, how does a horse's emotions relate to their behavior and their health? And specifically, we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, and I've coined it, I call it emotional agility. And it's in so many of my videos and in my mastery membership program. And the acronym that I always refer to is EA. How is your horse's EA, emotional agility? And whew, this is a big one. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. And then Sabrina is going to be talking about, what are you going to be talking about?
Oh, the spirit animal.
The spirit, the totem animal,
totem
and what
animal.
you saw.
Yes.
Remember last week we left off with,
Yeah, I was going to tell everybody
Yeah.
the animal that jumped into our arms, me and my husband.
last week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy.
I can't
Look at
wait.
it, wow.
Yeah, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about that too. So that's gonna get into the more part of everything horses and more, and a little bit of the spirituality, the woo-wooey, the esoteric, intangible aspects of us that fit in so well and ties into everything that we do on so many levels. So, and also just to let everybody know, Sabrina is here to take Q&A.
Mhm.
So she's ready. If anybody has any questions, we really would love to hear from you guys.
Absolutely.
Absolutely is right. Okay. All righty. So last week, just to review a little bit, because everything in my world and my work, there's such a connect the dots. Everything is such a big full circle. Everything is a continuum, and relates. So last week we were talking about the science, the real science behind horse training. And so much of, and I see a lot of this in the promotion of the online equine training courses. You'll see it by some of the trainers that you're familiar with, and there's some new ones that are coming out too. But everyone's catching and using the buzzwords, so to speak. And for those of you that are not familiar with my background, I have a graphic, web, and marketing background. I had another business before I started back into horses, and I do all of my own marketing. I have a team though that helps me, thank God. But I'm pretty much the director of everything. So with that being said, I am very familiar and very savvy with, she's back, you okay? With buzzwords and hype and how to use your content, your messaging, your language. And unfortunately, I bring this up almost in every podcast because it's so important to educate you guys, because you get seduced. You easily get seduced because, you're there. I know, I've been there. I'm still there in different areas of my life. When you really want something and you're searching and you're hungry or you're desperate or you're frustrated, and all of a sudden you start seeing, it's like the law of attraction, everything that you've been looking for, all of a sudden it starts showing up on the internet. Isn't that interesting how they spy on us? And all of a sudden you look at one thing on Facebook or one thing on Google, and all of a sudden all these ads come your way. Well, that's a whole different subject, but I just want you to be really careful about the power of messaging and marketing and advertising. It is a real science, you guys. And basically the science behind marketing and advertising, there's one word, and it's called emotional manipulation. And I never went to school for it. I just have a real good business and marketing knack intuitively. But when you do go to business and you do study marketing and advertising, they're going to teach you all the different layers and levels of basically seducing your audience into buying your service or product or goods. It's all language. It's all language. So remember that when you're out there, because you really need to start contrasting and comparing, and not just with how people write things, what they say, which is the worst, because there's so many great speakers out there that are amazing and have huge followings. But when you find out 20, 30 years later that they really were all talk, they didn't walk the walk, they didn't practice what they preached. And unfortunately, they end up showing up on Dateline or 2020 or some exclusive documentary because they lived a double life. And I mean this, I really mean this. You have to be careful. I am such a myth buster. I'm out there debunking not just equine professionals in training, but I'm out there in so many aspects of life, because I am the type of person that reads and researches and studies, and I'm very involved. My head is not just buried in my horsemanship. And everybody that knows me, especially my students, you know how very, I've lived a very full life, and I have done a lot of things. I have studied a lot of things. I continue. And now my big thing is taking all of those experiences and knowledge and content and sharing that with all of you. So I'm very well versed, I'm very well read, I'm very well educated on a lot of different areas of life, period. So when I'm sitting here telling you, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Be careful when you are looking, especially horse training, because it's so complicated, and our horses mean so much to us. And you know, the more students I get on a continuous basis in my courses and programs, the more I continue to hear how messed up their horses are, whether they've rescued them, adopted them, or bought them as is, or they sent their horse away and the horse has come back, or they've acquired a young horse that's 4 to 6 to 7 years old, which is still very young, maturity wise, very young, physically and emotionally. So when we're talking about horse maturity, we're talking about emotions, you guys, and mental cognition, but they've just been destroyed. It continues to blow my mind, Sabrina. It continues to blow my mind.
I know it does. You are so passionate about that.
I can't.
You really are.
And it pisses me off, and it makes me so freaking sick.
I know.
I mean, when the hell, I mean, I'm going to die doing this work. Mm-hmm. You know, I may never be able to, you know, I often think if I ever got paralyzed, like from a horse accident or a car accident, I have so many ways, as long as my voice is still working.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop, people.
Right.
So be careful what you read, because people steal from my shit all the time. I've been one of the first people out there, especially the spirituality of horsemanship, discovering the spirituality of horsemanship. Now it's an online course, but I mean, I was one of the first people out there 15 years ago talking about connection and communication and relationship. Nobody else was talking about this stuff. And when I became a clinician in 2009, that was the first time I became a presenter at some of our world's equine expos with my horses. I was the only one talking like that. And it just takes the one time. And then I swear that weekend, especially when we had the Horse World Expo at Timonium, Maryland, and then Denise the coordinator had it at the Harrisburg World Expos. As soon as I started in January, you know, it's freezing, flipping cold out. You got ice all over the roads in Maryland. I'm up there with my horses doing, you know, presenting with other, you know, world leading clinicians. I'm brand new. My horses are brand new. And I'm out there talking like I'm talking today. And then like the second day, there's like 3 or 4 of the name, you know, the name, not big time like Pirelli and Clinton. They don't go to these anymore. They have their own little expos, but like some of the other clinicians that have been around that I was watching for 10 plus years, they started taking my words.
Yeah, I see that.
And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I've been watching you for 10 years. I've never heard you use connection, communication, relationship, you know, bonding. And now I bring it first time, and now you're using it.
They're really locking her now.
Oh, well, Tommy Turvey was one of them. You know me, I'm going to bust some balls. And he knew I couldn't stand him because I couldn't stand his harsh training methods at the time. He got married, then divorced. And I don't know if he's still married to this French woman, but she was an equine trainer in France. This is years ago. And I don't talk about anybody unless I can say it to their face. So don't worry, people, I'm not talking smack behind his back, because he knows how I feel about him, especially when our horses would be stabled next to each other during the 4 days of presenting. And I wouldn't even acknowledge him because he's just such an idiot. But the second wife, if he's still married to her, did gentle him a little bit. He was just so rough. I mean, I inherited a couple of his horses, or his students, and their horses. I know what kind of horse training this guy
so
did.
you're not just talking, you
Oh,
actually know.
no, yeah, you guys,
people.
anytime I'm busting on someone,
Yeah.
I have proof.
Yeah, you
It's not
know.
just my opinion. I am not, everyone knows I'm opinionated, but you're going to know that my opinions are backed with experience. They're time tested or researched. I
Right.
mean, I'm not going to start shooting my mouth off unless I've walked the walk. I've done it. I've tried it. I mean, I can support it. So you can trust me on this. All right. You might not like what I have to say, but anyway, but it was really funny. So I just want you guys to be careful when you're out there, because as I mentioned in last week's podcast, I'll continue to mention this for anyone new coming on board. We are starting to see with Google, with the internet. I mean, I don't know what the buzzword is exactly, spying on us. Every time we look at one thing, we're going to start to see multiple ads reflecting that interest, including our equine professionals. And so you're going to start getting flooded in your news feeds on Facebook, like I am. If I'm researching my competition, so to speak, all of a sudden their sponsored ads, just like mine, will start showing up on their news feed. And yes, it's spying, and that's how, you know, who knows who's behind all of this. Obviously it's Facebook, but I mean, even beyond that, who are they sharing all these statistics with? They're making money when they do that. But just be careful, compare and contrast, and make sure that you educate yourself as much as you can visually. You know, you're watching them work, you're comparing how they are. Even though they're talking the talk, they can't always walk the walk. One of the things that I'm noticing is I've been marketing, especially with the Mastery Membership program. It is still very new. The work is not new, the content is not new, but pulling it together into this massive training system and program that is as comprehensive. There's no one else has anything out there like it. But I've noticed, I mean, it's brand new. We just started releasing it last fall of 19. And so I've noticed that in the news feeds, there's a bunch of newbie equine trainers out there, or even ones that have been around that are starting to change their language. Yeah. Now they're stating that they have a foundation program too. Young. So let's clear this up. And we don't even mean young in age. We just mean they just started. Yeah. You know, who the hell are they really studying? How much is, you know, what's the value of their experience? So a foundation, you know, that's a key word. And I'm not going to go off on a tangent right now because we have so many other things to talk about. Maybe I'll talk more about foundation and I'll make notes for next week. But I just want you to think about the word foundation training and what does it mean? So often we don't take the time to really investigate or think about these things and wrap our brains around them. What does foundation training? Be careful, because I've seen some new equine trainers new to this industry now coming out with their own courses, online training courses, and they're selling them as foundation courses, or they're reselling an older course and now calling it a foundation course. So if you are a horse trainer and you have also studied master trainers, some of them aren't even alive anymore, so you get their apprentices that have studied with them, or maybe you have some literature or some type of training system. When you study from a great master, you understand what a true foundation is. And I'll bring up one example, and that would be the Spanish School of Riding. It takes 8 years for them to fully develop their Lipizan horses to do the advanced haute col, or high school maneuvers that our Grand Prix dressage riders and above are performing. Okay, 4th level and above in dressage. So if you just study or research the Spanish School of Riding and the 8 years that it takes to develop these horses, that's a foundation. Now that's a long foundation, but it gives you an idea of all the areas that are included in the foundation of a horse. So basically it doesn't mean, well, we have a Liberty foundation, or we have a groundwork foundation. Yeah, if you're going to be selling it like that and you're being very clear and explicit that it's just a liberty or just a groundwork or just a riding. Now we're going to get a riding foundation. See, that's what I'm selling, a riding foundation, which means you don't start with riding.
Right.
You start way before riding and you work on all the important pieces that develop that riding foundation. And then when you get to that riding foundation, you're still developing the foundation. And that's a really key thing to understand, because that is what I am selling. And that's what I'm going to be out there. So help me God, if I catch any equine trainer out there bullshitting and selling a riding foundation online course, I'm going to do my investigating if I don't already know who they are, because there is so much that needs to be, absolutely has to be and needs to be included, that happens before you even get on the horse, a foundation on the ground, and that's one of the things that I love about the great masters is they understood being inclusive and holistic. They understood inclusive means we include all aspects of the horse's well-being. And that is a holistic approach, you guys. It means we include their emotions, their maturity level, the mental cognition. At certain ages, horses can only learn like children. They can only take in so much at certain ages. And it's not about the length or the quantity of training that you do with that young horse. It's the quality and understanding when it's time to stop for the day, because they're going to be overfaced and overwhelmed, and they can only take in and absorb because the brain just hasn't been developed to that level yet. People don't get the brain like us.
Yeah.
You got this young 2-year-old horse that everybody's like, this horse is ready to get started under saddle. No, it's not. Doesn't mean you can't put the first few rides on it and then leave the horse alone. You don't get it though. I mean, this is how our young horses are getting destroyed. They're getting destroyed. It's like throwing your 5-year-old child that is supposed to be going. Now, I'm not talking about a child that is gifted and accelerates. Okay. I'm talking about just your average kid. Throw them as a 5-year-old. They're supposed to go to kindergarten. All of a sudden for some reason, and I do know some people whose parents have come from other countries who are like drill sergeants. Well, you're going to learn. As soon as you get up, you're going to study. And you're like 5 years old. And basically you're doing 2nd grade courses. Even though you're intelligent as a 5-year-old and you basically, we know somebody who this happened to very personally. Even though you're 5 years old and you're intelligent and you definitely should be in a gifted program, it doesn't mean that your brain is cognitively developed enough to handle that amount of information. It's just crazy how we're not using a lot of common sense with training horses, just common sense, or people just nobody's being educated. They just think, oh, it's a 2-year-old animal. We can just start. It's a 2-year-old animal. Let's just throw it into training. Come on, bam, bam, bam. What do you mean you got a problem with this? Get moving, horse. Let's go. It's just a horse. Are you kidding? They're so intelligent.
Very.
And emotionally complex, and that's where we really start screwing things up. So in last week's podcast, I started to get into the brain of the horse, and I just was touching the surface of my personal research. I've written articles on this and my personal experience with the intelligence of horses. And so last week's podcast is really important because it talks about how horses learn, what's important to their learning as far as stimulating learning and motivating learning. And it's not what you think. And last week when our title was about the real science, science behind science-based and behavioral training, again, so many horse trainers are using these buzzwords and they really don't understand horses. in what's important to horses. And even if they're breaking things down, the horses are still so mechanical. You know, everything is so much about the technique. And you have to be careful because a horse, because they're so socially and emotionally intelligent, part of that intelligence is their aptitude, their natural instincts and aptitude to want to be curious, to want to investigate things, to be involved socially with each other all the time.
It's like my horses while you're talking.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's like a soap opera, you know, the different relationships and drama, you know, but it's like us though. That's why they're so similar to us in so many ways. So it's an intelligence when you have an animal that seeks out those different levels and layers of interaction with their own species and with us and with other animals, with our dogs, with our cats. We see these amazing, awesome posts from everybody on our Facebook all the time. You know, look at how this horse is relating to the goat, and the goat's on its back, or the cat's on its back, or the horse has an affinity for this animal or this child.
So cool.
You know, but so what's the opposite of that? An animal that's either shut down or dumb, honestly. And there's just nobody home. You know, they don't care. There's no interaction, either from horrible training or they're just not all there. And so, you know, here's your compare and contrast. And that brings just a deeper level of awareness and understanding. It's huge. It's really huge. And I think and you speak up and help me identify or help other people too. It's like, you know, I've been doing this work for so long, it's hard for me to be in your shoes in a student's position of learning. So Sabrina's learning a lot all the time. And I really count on her to kind of still try to be that student though, even though you're learning a lot. But just try to say, hey, Caroline, but as a newbie or somebody that's learning horses, what do you mean by intelligence? What do you mean horses are intelligent? And so I'm trying to break it down so that, you know, in a common sense way, but it is pretty deep, it's applicable to understanding where the intelligence shows up in our horses. And emotional and social intelligence is just what I explained. It's the ability, it's the innate craving, desire to engage and connect, and not just with your own species, but with everything around you, and investigate it and be curious. These are natural proclivities. This is a natural tendency in a horse. And so when you don't see that in your horses, I don't care what age, it's any age. If you don't start seeing this natural curiosity and engagement and desire to be involved, connected, engaged with everything, something's wrong. Something's wrong. Yeah. And so last week when we were talking about the cognitive development of horses, we were specifically talking about the hippocampus area of the brain, the limbic system, the amygdala, I never say that right, but they're all so interconnected. And without nurturing in the early stages of any socially and emotionally intelligent species, in the early developmental stages from birth on up, without that level of nurturing, interaction, bonding, especially from the mother. And then look, we take these 5-month-old, we wean these horses at 5 months. It's way too early, and we take them away from that nurturing, that bonding, and we stunt them. Doesn't mean we can't make up, but with the key word here to the key secret to training and really maximizing your horse's ability to learn quickly and retain has so much to do with relationship, because it's the relationship that stimulates and motivates and nurtures, not just a relationship you share with your horse, but stimulates and motivates your horse to want to learn and maintain an open learning frame of mind, as I always talk about. So it's deep stuff. And I'm even getting deeper talking about it in today's podcast. And if you are interested, my mastery membership program is all about this. This is what we talk about, and this is what we dive into, and this is how we train. And it is a foundation program.
It's really, it's a we.
It is a team.
Yeah,
with your horse.
Absolutely. And then we go on our mastery membership page and we do this weekly and we just work together.
Well, now we are. Now we're structuring. We have weekly webinars is what's in our private Facebook group is what Sabrina's talking about. Now,
really cool.
Like I said, it's still in its infancy stage, the program, as far as recognition and awareness. Not many people know about it. That's why we keep doing so much promotion on a monthly basis, like right now. So in the private Facebook group, we have so many, we have weekly webinars, Q&A, but now I'm taking the large group and we're starting over. We're starting from the very beginning together. That's the we part. Yeah.
That's really cool.
It is cool.
Fun to see everybody grow.
And not everybody is going to have time or be able to keep up, but that's why they're recorded and archived. And then we store the weekly Q&A webinars on the Mastery Membership Program. So everybody has that opportunity to review them at their own pace, at their own leisure.
Absolutely.
And they have
always there for them.
Yeah.
No matter where you're at.
I know. It's important.
Shoot an email.
Nobody touches what I do in the program or how involved I am. Because it means that much.
Yes, exactly.
I could cry.
Yes.
I mean, it means that much. I love what I do, and I love making a difference for the horses and people, and teaching you guys how to have what I have, because it's so life-changing in so many ways. It's so amazing. And anyway, do we have any questions?
Nope. They just all saying how much they love you and you're the best. And
no, you guys are sweet. I am a best. You'll see me say that all the time. This is the best with an E. Best.
Working it.
Boy, if I should have just renamed my training Best Horsemanship. No, I am the Tao. I've always been the Tao, and I used to hide behind Rider Horsemanship, which was my previous married last name, because it was smart. When I started this 15 years ago, the Tao would have scared everybody away. People weren't as ready to talk about or embrace what we're talking about, So it's all good. The Tao has been a part of it the whole journey. It owns everything. Rider's gone. And I'm still the best. I couldn't resist.
There you go.
Seriously, I do not mean that with any arrogance, you guys. Bring it on, people. Just bring it on. I am so sick of the shit out there with horses and how everyone's being misled. So I have the horse's best interest in mind, and yours. Okay, so that was last week. And then last Friday, for those of you, we produce a free training video on YouTube every Friday. The full version goes into our video library, which is a monthly subscription.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, you always have that. Last week, Friday's video was how to ride with balance, security, and confidence. And it's part of our common mistakes beginner riders make, part 4. We are now going to be, we're going to be developing that beginner riders into a series. So it's going to be a new series. So just stay tuned for that. But that was a really, we've gotten quite a few views on that too. It's a really deep, this is a deep series for beginner riders, but it's also for all riders, because I'm either riding in a dressage saddle and showing you, or I'm in my bareback pad, and everything that I'm discussing in this beginner rider series, whether it's on, on YouTube, and then of course we're going to save the full length videos. They're going to become part of a course to purchase. It's for all of you though, at every level. And this is for every level riding, every discipline, styles of riding. Because I'm seeing it on all levels and all disciplines. It's not just for beginners. but we're calling it that because it's catching. It's a buzzword. It gets people's interest and attention. And I want to help the beginner riders that have been riding the wrong way for years. And I say wrong way, again, it's not my opinion, you guys. These are fact-based. When you're coming to me and you're either in pain, or your horse doesn't want to be ridden, or you can't find your balance, I mean, or you feel like you're pulling in your horse's mouth all the time. When I see these kinds of comments and questions coming in all the time, then that's the proof that you're not learning correctly. It shouldn't be that way. And remember, I'm backing myself up with the great masters. So for anybody that's like, oh, who the hell are you, Caroline? Where the hell did this come from? Go look at either your late Tom and Bill Dorrance, your late, not natural horsemanship, but the gurus. That's kind of where it, Pat Pirelli got his stuff, and where a lot of our general horsemanship, can't remember all their names in Western Horsemanship magazine, but that's where they knew them. When I studied with no, I don't think John studied with them. Jack Brainerd, like when I studied with Jack Brainerd, he's in his 90s now, he knew Ray Hunt. Jack and Ray knew Tom and Bill Dorrance. Okay, so I don't think John Lyons did, but John is general horsemanship. You have to be careful, but they're like Buck Brannaman. I know he knew Ray Hunt. You see how it's kind of like 7 degrees, or, everybody kind of knew everybody. So I'm taking my learning and study from in the more reigning Western discipline from Bill and Tom Dorrance and their holistic attitude and approach to training horses. And then I'm going also to the classical dressage, and that would be more of Nuno Oliveira, who's passed, no longer here. Then I'm going to Mary Wanless, who I personally studied with for some time in one of her instructors at Your Centered Riding. And then the fourth would be Xenophon. And obviously Xenophon's from 300-400 AD. So Xenophon is the first one that wrote The Art of Horsemanship. He's the first one that started dressage. Dressage is the original discipline to riding, and it was designed or developed as a military, for the cavalry, as a strategic military discipline. So your horses had to be, back then in Xenophon's era, AD, they had to be so well trained as an athlete to be able to do their amazing movements through the seat and leg only, because you needed one hand for the sword and one hand for the shield. So you basically were riding bridleless. And so now you have the 4 greatest or 5 greatest influence, or there's a little bit more influences and in my life. And that's what I've been pulling from, not to mention my own personal experience and approach with my late horses. All righty. So that was last week's video. And then this week, this week's deep. This week and next week, so August 7th and August 14th are going to be 2 really complex videos. We'll give you snippets on YouTube, but this Friday is where should my hands be and how should I hold my reins? And why I say it's really complex is I'm going to be talking and demonstrating where they should be in 3 specific areas of horsemanship. It's different styles of riding, different level riders, and then different levels of trained horses. So in this Friday, you get me explaining and demonstrating where should my hands be, how should I hold the reins according to which discipline I'm riding in, where's my horse, what's their level of education, and then am I a novice, new student, intermediate, or advanced student. So that's with hand and rein position. And then the 14th of August, we're going to be releasing contact and rein length. Oh, in the same areas though. What's my rein length? What do I do with my rein length? This is huge. Huge, huge, huge. So you can see why this is great for new riders, but it's also great for all of you that have been riding and you just, you're stuck. You're stuck in your learning.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that covers that, my dear. Did I leave out anything?
No.
Mm-mm.
No,
Okay.
you're awesome.
Okay, we're on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get into our discussion this week, our title for today's podcast again is How Does a Horse's Emotions Relate to Their Behavior and Their Health? And I'm specifically going to be bringing up my coined term, emotional agility. Where is, or how to identify, what do I mean by emotional agility in us and in our horses? What does that mean? How does it show up? And emotional agility to me is the same as the title. How does your horse's emotions show up in their behavior and in their health? So it's kind of like I'm teaching you to assess. How do you assess? So when I meet a horse for the first time, when horses have come to me for years for training, I no longer train anyone's horses but my own. So when they would come to me, I would always do an assessment. And before they would come to me, I mean, I still do assessments. Doesn't mean that I'm training your horse though, but I'll still do assessments. So when horses would come to me for the first time, I need to get to know them, because it's absolutely imperative, like for us. Yeah, when we go to school, we get tested. And then throughout our schooling, we get tested to see where we are in our learning, our aptitude, our cognitive abilities, all of it. So with my emotional, the key word is emotional agility test, each horse goes through the same litany, the same sequence of exercises, so that I can see what kind of learner they are, what kind of triggers they have. It really helps me get to know who they are as well as their learned behaviors. And this assessment is also part of my Mastery Membership Program. It's the exact same learning that my students are learning. It's just in a much slower pace. And because my students ask often when they hear me talk about this, well, Caroline, where is it in the court? Where is it in the program? Where's in the program? And I'm like, it's all of the program. When you're at my level, and I am a master at what I do, then I know what exercises to pull in what order, and that's what the horses go through. But as a student of the full picture, the big picture, the program, you're learning all the pieces. But maybe that's something I can add to the program later down the road. So that means if I go and do an assessment, because I get hired to do those often, evaluate, assess a horse, then I always ask, do you have a round pen? The round pen's really the best place I'd like to begin, because I want to begin in an open, free space. If you don't, then do you have like a 20, 30, 40 by 40 paddock area?
And most of us do.
Yeah, at least a paddock area then. That's fine.
Sure.
Yep. The beauty of the round pen is it's a continuum of energy though, and it allows the horse to not get stuck in corners. But how many of our horses have major triggers and issues in the round pen from being round penned wrong? So as soon as they get in the round pen, they run, they check out, they go ballistic. I mean, it's horrible. I think 97, 98% of our horses are, it's horrible.
Absolutely. Because now I see it too.
Well, look at your little baby that you bought.
Oh, yeah.
At 2.
But now when I go to somebody's house and they're like, I'm, working with their horses.
Well, wait.
And stuff.
Let's talk about that, because the previous owner of Karma, aka Susie, who messed her up, love you out there. I love you. You're a wonderful person. But when I asked her, because she'd come and watch us as we were training Susie before you bought her, I'm like, what kind of round penning? Well, just a few times. I've only round penned a few times. But the amount of damage that was done, it took like a month to undo just to begin to undo the damage and reset new patterns, positive
Yeah.
patterns. So where you're headed, and not to be rude and interrupt you, but you know me, where you're headed is most of you don't even realize the damage that you're doing. You stop doing the round penning because it's not working, and it gets worse because you've screwed it up. You've confused the horse, or you've damaged the horse on some level. And you really got to understand that. And I'm not here to beat you up about it. I love Susie's former owner. We love her.
Absolutely.
She's the most kind, gracious, big-hearted woman, loves her animals. It has nothing to do with how much she loves her animals. It's just, you got to learn. I think it's just awareness. It comes down, I keep looking for the rain. It comes down to awareness. It comes down to consciousness, like not being conscientious, but raising your awareness raises your conscious level. Like what am I doing here? You know, and obviously Susie's former owner understood that it was time to stop, and then sent her to me to fix. But don't even begin it where I'm headed, or begin it with, which we'll talk about at the end of this podcast, one of my courses, like Discovering the Spirituality of Horsemanship through the Art of Liberty training. And when you take this course of mine, it also is all about biomechanics, straightness training, balance. And it's not just the art of liberty. We're also developing our horses through the lunging.
And
my
that
lunging.
makes sense.
Learn.
What is the point with what most of them
But see, unfortunately, so many of us do. You like what you see on YouTube, and then you think you can just learn it.
Yes.
So like I often, this is the one thing I often get from my YouTube videos. I think at least in every video of mine on YouTube, I get it once. Blah, blah, blah. You keep rambling and you talk too much. And I'll come right back, and not defensively, but I'm like, seriously, then you don't know how to learn, because learning begins with developing the mental memory and the knowledge and understanding the philosophy and the concepts and the theory behind everything.
Right.
And then that starts first. Then second, you train your eye. And then third, you take what you've been learning, both mentally, cognitively, understanding the principles, the theory. You take that plus visually training your eye, and now you take those two together and you apply it to the practice. Wow. So yeah, I go back and I'm like, well, this is how you're supposed to learn. And so that's why I do a lot of talking. And when I do, and people are interested, then you guys are like, whoa, this makes so much sense. I wish I had this. Nobody was teaching like this when I came back to horses. And that's why I'm teaching like this. And that's why I know so much, because I took the time all these years to develop this level of knowledge, and not just by speaking it, but also I developed it by showing it to you. And when you follow the great masters, you know how important it is to take the time, and not just take the time. And before you practice, you must study. You must study visually. You must understand the theory. And that's why I'm bringing up this whole round penning as an example, is why are we, we're being told by our backyard nincompoop of he's not even a trainer, just a backyard person with horse experience, or who, you board your horse with, and they're like, just run him in the round pen. Put him in the round pen and get the piss and vinegar out of them. Or they don't want to move. Well, I'll show them. Let's go show them how to move in the round pen. And just that one time destroys your horse.
Yeah, because
it F's your horse up so bad. And it just blows my mind.
I remember Clinton Anderson.
My favorite.
Yeah, it was long time ago. I don't even remember. I was in West Virginia, but I watched him, and I went outside, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna try this. And
I've been there.
Yeah, and my horse was sweaty by the time he was done, and I was like, what was the point of that? Yeah,
this doesn't feel right. Doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah, and he's just all,
that's a good point. That's a good distinction, though, because that's what makes, when I came back to horses, I wanted to design my own method and teach and train. And I think that is the distinction right here that I need to remember, is that I took it really seriously, and I wanted to become the best teacher I could. So I went slow, and I also signed up with a professional that had a curriculum. He was one of many. So I could really dive into what I'm talking about. So I had a different mindset when I came back, and I was much older when I came back into horses. Whereas, I wasn't in that. I wasn't interested at all. I wasn't looking at any YouTube. There wasn't really any YouTube videos when I got back into it 15 years ago. And there wasn't any. It was all DVDs. So I was buying as many DVDs, and this particular one had a program. And it was, and I wanted to follow the program, because to me, as a student and a teacher, that makes the most sense, right? You want to follow a program, which means a curriculum. Hopefully that means it has step-by-step, everything is building blocks. I got that. So I think that's what's missing. There's such an explosion. I mean, I've been so busy developing the work and doing the work with my students, and now I'm coming back to the developing it online, and I forget I'm not a student. I'm not out there trying to study someone else's videos, but that's what's going on. And we all make it look good. And so you think, like you just said, because that might have been 4 or 5 years ago with Clinton. So that was
it's
all,
been a while.
but that's not that long ago. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's
For me, it is.
yeah, but the internet was pretty big.
It was on Writers TV show, or RFD TV.
RFD TV. Oh yeah.
Years ago, we had his shows on there all the time.
Yep, I remember those. I remember those.
And
yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. So that puts into perspective for everyone out there, be careful. Remember, I mean, we all pros make it look good because we do this all the time, and we've honed in on our skills. But where did we begin? Have you interviewed any of them? You're kind of getting a self-interview right here. Where did we begin? We didn't just begin with those. We either learned from somebody on a one-on-one. Usually that's how it happens. These YouTube videos are like quick, let's find some success. Now I do agree, and we're trying to get better at this on our snippets for YouTube, that you give like one point, one key, technique or building block, and you explain it and demonstrate it in a few steps. I do think most of my full-length training videos, whether they're still on YouTube or they're in the video library, are long. They're 30 to 50 minutes long. So they really are pretty much a step-by-step. So they're not just a quick 5-minute video that points a few things out and gives you a couple of pointers. Actually, those would be called pointer videos. They're just a couple of pointers. They're not real. It's not real training.
No. But the real videos are really good because you talk really well about it. So, and that's what makes them long. And horse training shouldn't be, short. No, it shouldn't. And that helps us clarify the compare and contrast, because I just did. So, and I won't bring up this person because I'm not ready to now, but this particular person who's very successful with her equine training videos on YouTube, they're really pointer videos because they're like 5 minutes long, and they just point out, they give you some points, some tips, versus a real training video. And I think if we can wrap our heads around, as students in an audience, when you're really learning something, you want to learn something, you need to get a training video. Pointers are just pointers. They're just going to point things out and give you a couple of little tips, but they're not real training videos. And there's a big distinction. Absolutely.
And we definitely produce training videos. How-to. Yeah. Any questions before?
No, just a lot of sharing. And I think Yana asked though, what about bridles? Can you cover that?
Bridles. I won't cover that today, Yana. That's a great one. I'm going to make a note for that for next week, bridles. And Yana, feel free to email me personally or Sabrina, because I want to know exactly what you want to talk about. I have experience with bridles and bits and tons of different bits, and you all know I'm bitless and why you can achieve I will explain how you can achieve everything without a bit, including the great masters and how they trained without bits. The Spanish School of Riding trains without a bit. Bit comes later when the horse is already developed. So Yana, go ahead and email us, and because I need to know exactly what you want me to talk about. All right, and I'll include that in next week. That's awesome. Thank you for that. Awesome, awesome. So what happened last week? Because Sabrina, when what happened to you in your backyard, but wait, remember, connect the dots. So that happened when you came back from your visit.
Yes, from my visit.
And you don't have to get, you know me, you don't have to get personal. You get as personal as you want or don't want to, but
Right.
you have,
Yep, I went to go see my family at Youth World it was like the week before, right? Yeah.
Make sure your voice is good. Yeah.
The week before.
So that would have been last Thursday and Friday you took off.
Yeah.
No, not last Thursday and Friday, the week before.
I was here for our podcast. And
I
then
came back.
I came back. I turned myself back off. I hope y'all can hear me. But
Yeah.
I should be able to.
Yeah. All right. Sorry.
All good. But
So you visited your mom.
Yeah, I visited my mom.
And that's a
my
tumultuous.
sister.
That's a hard thing.
It is, because we haven't always seen eye to eye. So yeah, it was.
And you're going through a lot of growth, and personal growth, and
I am.
Mhm.
Yeah.
with your mom.
Yeah, with everything.
Yeah.
Really, everything. Jeez. But especially with my mom, we've come a long way.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
You
since
know?
I've known you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But a lot's changed too.
Mhm.
Like, it's not your mom, her mother hasn't changed. You've changed.
Yeah.
Because you can't change your mom. And that's one of the
No.
heartbreaks for a lot of us when we have an unhealthy, sad relationship with a loved one, and friendship, partner, family member, and you realize, if I want them in my life, because you want your mom in your life for your kids, if I want them in my life and they're not aware and they're not gonna change, how does that happen? So you've been making all of this personal change.
Yeah. And for some reason though, I feel like because I've changed so much in the way she has.
Yes.
changed, if that makes sense.
Well, it does, because we've
So,
talked about it.
yeah.
That would be exemplary leadership, where you lead by example,
Yes.
and you don't try and talk someone into changing. You just see, which is how I believe in raising kids
Yeah.
too, and horses, and it's part of being a Taoist.
Yeah. It's really, now we see each other. There's not a lot of tension anymore. We actually enjoy each other's company, because
That's
I
beautiful.
think she finally sees me as an adult.
Mm.
Not like a crazy.
Well, it's
kid.
so easy to go back and forth
Yeah.
and mother, daughter, and banter and fight, and then you kind of get pigeonholed there.
Yeah.
It's like you don't have a chance for them to see you as who you've become, because they're
Yeah.
so used to seeing
Oh,
you as you
course.
were.
And we haven't talked in 10 years before, so she didn't really have the opportunity to watch me grow up
Mm-mm.
from being 22 years old to 32 years old.
Wow.
So,
Holy cow.
Yeah, so that's huge. But we're trying, and I'm super proud of her for not backing up. She's trying to come.
She's
with
meeting
me.
you there.
Yeah, she's meeting
To the best of her ability.
Yeah.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, actually just a couple of months now, she's meeting me halfway. I don't know what happened, but
Well, this is full circle with our topic
Yeah.
about emotional agility too. This is
so-
awesome.
So yeah.
So you come back on a Saturday, and then when does this?
That Wednesday,
That Wednesday before the podcast,
Yes,
that morning
that
before
morning.
that podcast,
I went to go outside to feed my girls.
your horses.
And yeah, I'm sorry, I call
Yeah.
my girls my horses. And I was walking up with the buckets, and from the corner of my eye, coming from the woods, a fawn was coming, a baby deer.
A baby deer. We never see them around here because of coyotes.
No, so it was
A fawn.
literally walking into.
It walked
my
into
horse
your
pasture.
paddock
Yeah.
and right up to you. And your
Well,
husband?
It was looking for food, I think. It was kind of snooping around.
Okay.
So I took that opportunity to go get Donnie.
Yeah.
And I was like, Donnie, you will not believe what I'm seeing. And
I can't believe that you were able to leave and go get your husband and the
right?
fawn. No, the mama was not there.
No,
She must have left it sleeping or something, but the fawn was still in with your horses?
in with the horses. Yes.
Wow.
So, and my kids weren't with us. They were in West Virginia with their
Grandparents,
grandparents. So he ran out and he was like, what? I came running out the door, and literally that fawn came running towards me, and Donnie was able to catch it.
Oh my God.
And
This is amazing.
yeah, and the mom was nowhere to be seen. So I don't know if somebody had it as a pet for themselves or caught it.
How big was it?
It's only a few months old.
So it still had white spots on
Yes,
it?
it still has.
Oh
spots
yeah,
on
it was a baby.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so he grabbed it, and of course we called animal control and all that good stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's just crazy.
How did it make you feel though? Like I want to talk about, like, I don't mean like, oh, how cool a fawn came up, but this is what we experienced. So try and find your words, because it's a hard thing to articulate. No, it's a hard thing to articulate. Like for me, if I was in, it could hit me one of two ways. It could hit me because I might be really busy and not really in that moment.
Right.
It could just hit me like, wow, this is really special, really awesome. But if I'm really in a particular space, and I'm bringing it up because I know you were, like I'm shifting my consciousness, like I'm like just something's shifting, and to me this animal coming in would be very symbolic of that shift.
Absolutely. It's the same shift that when I have the dreams of the snakes.
Yes.
And the snake means you shed new life.
It's a
you shed
big spiritual
skin.
totem animal.
Yes, and you shed new life. So it was the same shift that I experienced when I had those dreams.
So it's like it means even more in that moment.
Yes,
like it's
absolutely.
This is what I call transcending, when you know what's going on and you're there, and yet you're also somewhere else. Like it's just this, it's a high. You feel light.
It was really
So
neat.
what's the deer totem animal mean?
Okay.
What's the symbolism?
What is the meaning of the deer totem? The meaning associated with the deer combine both soft, gentle qualities with strength and determination. Gentleness, ability to move through life and obstacles with grace, being in touch with inner child innocence, being sensitive and intuitive, vigilance, ability to change directions quickly, magical ability to regenerate, being in touch with life's mysteries.
That is freaking huge. And that is so much of who you are and where you are right now.
Yes.
Like, we talk about energy all the time, and we understand it here. And it's like, because we just live it all the time. So it just gets deeper and more meaningful, and it shows up till it's just, you're just always there in that presence of it. So I can feel it. Like I can feel those shifts. You know me, I'll either be like, hey, wow, what's going on today? Or are you okay today?
Yes.
It's kind of the same for both of us.
Yes.
So we're very tuned in, is what I'm saying, to each other by what we feel and what we see.
Yes.
And it's not just the obvious. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I think
That is
so.
beautiful. Now, what happened to the deer?
The deer was picked up
By
and
animal control.
Animal control,
Awesome.
and they're gonna let it go because the mom was nowhere to be
Yeah,
found.
it might be. And sometimes that happens when they leave them to,
It was like 2-3 months old. Oh, you mean like leaving them?
they leave them to go find food while they're taking a nap.
But they go to sleep. Yeah, the babies are usually asleep.
Yeah, I
Because
know.
in West Virginia, Peyton, my daughter, she's been trying to catch a deer.
Who doesn't want one when you're
Right?
little?
And they run like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the minute you walk up to them, they're gone.
Yeah.
Or the mom's always somewhere.
Oh,
very
God.
close by.
Did it look like it had good weight on it?
It was thin. It was a little thin.
So that's why I would think it might have been hand raised too. Didn't have a real good milk belly on it.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Or just it strayed away from its mom. You
Mom
never
got
know.
shot.
Oh,
You know?
Yeah,
I mean, so it's hard to say.
I know.
And you're not allowed to have deers.
Mm-mm.
So, I don't know if it was somebody's pet and accidentally got out. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but it sounds like maybe mom was shot. Who knows?
Mhm.
That's pretty cool. That's just some of this, some of the stuff we talk about here, huh?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Welcome.
Welcome, everybody. All right, so before I get into this conversation real quick, because we're already at 1 o'clock. Holy cow. I know, and I've got a 2 p.m. coaching call. Any questions?
No, ma'am. Kind of going through it right now to see
Okay.
if I'm catching any, because since we were talking.
Yeah, I know. All right, so I'm gonna just let me know. I'm gonna go forward with how does a horse's emotions relate to behavior and health? Wow, this is such a deep subject. And, then we're talking about emotional agility, such a deep subject. I think in my experience, I've worked with just as many people as I have horses, so that's thousands. And I'd say 1% of people actually are ready. I'm not even going to say understand completely, but are really aware and ready, and have a grasp of when their horse isn't right or their horse is trying to tell them something. I will say 1%.
Wow.
And I'll say less for horses. I'll say less for horses as far as being emotionally agile.
Wow.
So how can I compare that? So for horses, I can easily compare emotional agility to either wild horses or raising a baby yourself, but raising it correctly. And Blue is becoming one of those. So were you here yet? You weren't here yesterday. You were here, but you weren't in the other barn with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a package from, I shop online all the time, Amazon. And it was ink and it was MSM for the horses. And I opened it up. Paula brought it to me in the other barn, and my guys, Legend and Sundance, were eating hay, and the baby was in the other stall eating hay. And I opened up the box, so it's making baby, this is great. So for those of you that don't know Blue, who's 2 now, and you haven't seen him on YouTube going nuts over the sound of paper bags, tarp, umbrellas, opening up the tape on your box that your your stuff's been shipped in, he'd just fly out, go ballistic. So here I am right in front of him, opening up this box, tearing off the tape, watching. Of course, Sundance and Legend, old school, my horse schoolmasters, they don't even lift their heads, they're eating. But the baby's head is over the stall, very engaged the whole time, eating hay, very engaged. So I'm like, wow, this is really cool. Now, the products are packed with not peanuts, but the big, and you can pop them.
Yeah,
they're not the bubbles, but they're the big long tubes,
ones.
the tubes,
Yeah.
and you can pop them. So I'm like, here I go.
Uh-oh.
So I pull out this long string, I'll call it like tubular air, that I can pop, and he's fine. He's still blinking and eating.
Oh, wow.
But I'm pulling it out slowly, because I'm not just going to whip it out, because I don't want an accident. I don't want him spinning and plowing into the barn as he runs out the stall, because that's what he used to do. So I'm pulling out slowly, and he's just chomping away, and I'm like, oh man, this is awesome. So I kind of cover and I pop one kind of inside the box, and he's still eating and chewing. And now he's looking like he wants to know what I'm doing. I'm like, oh no, you did not, So I pull him out, and I'm all about positive. My positive reinforcement is all about positive associations too. So I'm smiling, kissing him, and he's, muzzling me, and I'm popping him while I'm kissing him. So I'm kind of, diverting his attention,
Right.
but he doesn't, making it a good thing. He doesn't care. And then I'm popping it right in front of my mouth and he's on the other side of it. And then he starts to pop them.
Oh.
Never had a horse pop air before. And I just wanted to cry. So I bring that up because he was damaged goods when he came as an 8-month-old. And the little bit of work I've done here and there, because he's still young, has been tremendous, obviously. And all the issues that he's had with all those noises and stimuli, and you see them on YouTube or you see them in a short course on the Mastery program. I have done spent short spurts of time helping him. But the most important thing to understand is his maturity level and just growing up. And then me, obviously having a healthy level of desensitizing available means stuff is just always around on a regular basis that allows him to get used to it. And so and then there's the whole relationship. It's just amazing. But I bring Blue up because if I had raised Blue, knowing what I know, he would have been that way from birth. And that's the compare and contrast that I'm bringing up. Your young horses are curious by nature and instinctively, naturally engaged and seek out engagement. And so, as I said earlier in this podcast, if your horse is withdrawn, what does that look like? Let's just do a real loud, and let me back up. Let me go back to a real black and white, loud contrast and compare. If your horse is not curious about everything, I don't care what age, and is not engaged, like, what are you doing? Paying attention to what you're doing, interested in what you're doing, or anything that's around you. Something's wrong. Do you see how my baseline? Do you see how I can say that less than 1% of our horses are healthy? Less than 1% of our horses have emotional agility. Our domesticated horses. Now, if I were to group wild horses, they're fine. But how the hell would any of us know? Because all we get to see is the shit on YouTube of how the BLM, sometimes I get that BML or BLM. Yeah, I'm right, BLM. How they're chased by helicopters. As soon as they even hear a human, they are running because they've been traumatized. So, you can't look at those videos and see what a wild horse is really like. And I've had the privilege of being able to study them up close and for long periods of time on a regular basis. Not to mention, raise young horses. And then all the horses I've worked with rehabilitating and restarting. So there's your compare and contrast. And it just, horses are so much easier than humans because in two clear ways with emotional agility. Horses are better at it than humans for two clear reasons. One, they don't have a third layer to their brain like humans do. And that third layer of our brain, without getting into specific terminology, is responsible for deep cognitive, analytical skills that only humans possess. Horses, they literally, physically don't have that third layer. So a horse isn't going to sit there and rationalize. And doesn't mean they don't get a trigger and they're not thrown back into past memory, but they're not going to sit there and analyze. To a point they might. There are some that there are exceptions to the rule, but in general, horses are not going to analyze, rationalize, compartmentalize, have deep thought, dream, create. They do dream, but create language. Not going to happen. But that's a good thing, because that also means they don't get trapped in their own ego and stories and play that film over and over and over and over again. But then there's triggers. So they don't have that. That's one clear science proven research here. And then the other reason why they have their emotional agility is so much better and easier for them is they don't have ego. Now, again, there's exceptions to the rule and there's slight variances to everything. And I'll use my 27-year-old Arabian legend. He has a big ego, and that's one smart ass horse.
He is.
He can get himself out of any gate, and he can get his helpers to help get him out of the gate, whether he can manipulate it with his muzzle, and I know a lot of horses out there, or I've had Smokey and Legend take it off the hinges. Well, it's still chained to one side with a clip, but it's off the hinges more than once. So, and in particular situations that make sense why they would want to be out. Oh yeah. And yeah, I mean, that's just an exception to the rule. Legend's one of them, and they're everywhere. I've met many intelligent horses, super intelligent horses. So when we're thinking about emotional agility, what are we basing it on? And then when you're looking at your horse, how curious and how engaged is your horse? And how, right there, I think let's just stop there. And we can continue next week, because I'd love to hear from you guys. I'd love for you to say, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, here's your barometer, here's your gauge. On a scale of 1 to 10, how does your horse, like, you could jot down 10 things that you want to test your horse. Okay, never thought about this before. I'm gonna take him off the property or walk him down the driveway and into the neighbor, whatever. How does he do? How does he do around X, Y, and Z? And if you're not sure, you can always go on YouTube and look at some of the hellacious things people are doing when their horses are scared, all the horrible desensitizing. But how does your horse respond to anything new that you put in front of them? Anything as an object new or a demographic? Can you trailer them somewhere new? Can you take them off the property? Can you introduce a new environment, a new surrounding, a new object? And how do they do? A new noise, how do they do? So let me give you one concrete science-based reason why wild, healthy horses or babies don't react. Because instinctively, it is hardwired in a horse. Their first self-preservation mode, their first instinct in a healthy horse is to freeze. Freeze, not react, not go into flight, not go into fight. Freeze. You see that with wild horses. You see that with a healthy horse.
I do that.
Why do they freeze? So that the rest of their senses, their nervous system, all of their senses now are going to super tune in. Their hearing, their smell is most important, and their eyesight. All three of those major senses are now going to hone in super strong to everything around them that just alerted them. What was it? What's going on? Do I need to be afraid? So unlike what we're taught and unlike what we experience with our domesticated horses, most of them go into spastic mode, right? They over-respond. Instinctively, this is through the nervous system of the horse. A healthy horse, aka wild horse, because let's just say that, wild horse, will freeze. Just look at Nat Geo. Look at all the prey and predators that finally get to the watering hole, and everybody's bellies are full, so you don't see any of the predators trying to kill the prey yet. And one of the prey is a zebra. And just watch the herd dynamics between the species, within the species. Just watch. Now, I can't say that most baby horses are healthy, because who influences them? Their mama horse and us and their environment. So a baby horse, in order for a young foal to really, for you to be able to gauge how healthy they are, you have to look at those three areas. How healthy is its mama? Because it's going to learn from its mother first. And is she nurturing? Is she bonding? Is she giving him everything he needs to learn? what is his environment like? Do you have healthy horses around? Or do you have horses that are teaching him to be scared? Or do you have healthy people around? So, do you see where I am, people? This breaks my freaking heart. This is why I do what I do. I'm not here to discourage you, disappoint you, give you despair. Please join us, join the revolution, and change this. Awareness is the first step. And awareness is the first thing I teach in all of my work. So if you want to learn, join the Spirituality of Course. The Spirituality of Horsemanship course is also included in the Mastery membership, but many people can't afford the Mastery membership. So we start with the Spirituality course. And I'm the first person to tell you that if you join it and you email me later on down the road, I've done it. I feel like I've accomplished it. It's fantastic, but I now can afford the Mastery membership. Can I apply that towards the Mastery membership? Yep, I'll do it. So if the Mastery is 2,000 and the Spirituality is 1,000, and you come to me 6 months, a year later and say, can I upgrade to the Mastery? Right now, I'm going to say yes.
That's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I've done it. My work is expensive because it should be, for all the right reasons. But I'm always here for you guys, and I'm always helping. It's the best of my ability. Yeah.
Just do it with respect.
Yeah, do it with respect. I know I get people that come back and say, well, you were offering this. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not offering it anymore. But yeah, I would honor that. Of course I would honor that. What a schmuck if I didn't. All right, guys, we're going to end this. Got to end soon anyway. And next week, wow, we're going to continue this conversation. That was pretty good, though, to give you guys some concrete things to think about. Your barometer. What is your barometer? How do you gauge your horse? And is it accurate? Is it really accurate? All righty. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Guys.
Thanks, Sabrina, for sharing
some
personal stuff there.
Y'all are welcome.
Yeah, we go there. We can go there. God knows I can. And, may you always be one with your horse. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week. And I hope you join. We'll put the link up to join the Spirituality course.
Perfect.
All right. Love y'all. God bless. Stay safe. Bye-bye.